Hey guys, it's Jenny with Vinegoat Artist Bar and Studio and the Go Box, streaming from Sherwood, Oregon. We are streaming a little early today due to the ice and the weather forecast for what may or may not happen here. We know the last couple days we've had to cancel some live streams due to excessive ice and inability to drive in. And so anyway, we thought we'd make sure you got a Valentine's video today, and so that's what we're doing right now. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in on the project and talk to you about that. So I'll do that real quick. There we go. Okay, so this is our Owl Always Love You, which was inspired by a photograph I actually saw, I think on Pinterest, of two barn owls together, and their little beaks were touching like a kiss, and their faces made one big heart together. I thought that was cute and would make a really fun and easy painting to do. Despite the way the owls look, it's actually a very easy painting to do, especially this stuff is super easy and fun, and that's what we're gonna do today. We are gonna have fun. So let's do a little supply check. I'll move these out of the way. I'll probably bring them back in lots of different times just to reference certain things we did. So first off, you'll want to have your brushes. So those of you who ordered the kit, you have your 4-pack of brushes, which I know we ended up sending later in a separate package because a little miscommunication there and they were forgotten. But now you should have them. And you want a cup of water and some kind of old paint rag or some paper towels work totally fine. And then for paint mixing, a paper plate works good if you don't have one of these. I think, yes, in your kit you guys have paper plates, so you can use those. If you do decide to really get into painting and you want to do it on a regular basis, these palettes are really cool. It's just a pad of wax paper sheets. There's 50 sheets, and we sell them on our website, gobox.com. That's G-O-G-H, for, I think they're $6. So they're cool. They'll get you through any painting. You just basically tear the top sheet up, roll it up like a burrito, and toss it away. So colors, let's have a look. I ended up giving myself a little more of this color than needed, but that came out of the bottle kind of fast. So we have our standard black and white, which are almost in every single painting. We have phthalo blue, which is kind of your dark indigo blue. Bahama blue, which is the fun Tiffany box blue color. Craft yellow, and then we have two different browns for our owls. We have burnt sienna and raw umber. So with all of these and a little mixing, we will make it happen. So I'm going to push this over here, try to get it on camera some, so I can show you whenever I mix colors. Let me just do a little adjusting here. All right. So to start, we're actually going to go right for sketching the owl face in. So we're going to make a heart here. We can do it. We can do it together. Let's talk about color though. So whenever I'm sketching something that I know is going to be painted over, and I know that I might be correcting here and there, I always sketch it in a very pale color. And since our background is blue, and we actually draw the owl on, and then while the drawing outline is drying, we paint the background. I wouldn't want to sketch it in brown, because then when you paint the background, you can end up getting brown smearage in your sky, and we don't want any of that with this painting. So I'm going to actually have us make a very pale blue color to start with. So let's see brush wise. With your kit, I like to use the number 8 for sketching. So it's your number 8 flat brush. Pick it on up. Let's dip it in the water cup, kind of brush it across the bottom of the cup gently. Wake up those bristles. Especially with new brushes, they have a coating on them that kind of keeps them firm and keeps those bristles together. So dry it off real good. Make sure you get this, every time you dry your brush, make sure you get this metal ferrule dry, because you'll get a rogue drip of water sometimes that will splotch on your painting and can be annoying. So keep that dry when you dry your brush. Make sure you dry that. Let's mix white with a little of this. You don't need much paint at all, but you want a very pale, like toothpaste, minty blue color. I might make mine a shade darker than you guys need to, only so that it shows up on the camera. So there we go. Good sketching color. It's our blueprint color. Haha. Okay, let's see how these guys are positioned. Where is that heart shape? So if I were to guesstimate, this is probably about 4 to possibly 4.5 inches down from the top of the canvas where I start that heart shape. And then it goes out, like if you were to measure a distance across here, that's probably close to 3 inches. So make sure it's not like a super tiny face, because you got room for a larger one. So we're gonna do this at the same time. Let's go down about 4.5 inches. Let's make a mark on either side. And I just heard a bunch of ice fall down from something. Now I'm just gonna dot it out. Dotting out is non-committal. And this face, how far does it go down? Probably about 3 inches. So out 3 inches, down 3 inches. Just round it down and meet in the middle with your cute little heart. Your owls should look different from each other, because they do. There's differences with barn owls. They're like my favorite subject to paint, so I look at lots of pictures of them, and some of them have like more of a apple-shaped face, and others have a true heart shape, and then some others have more of an oval shape. So yes, there are lots of differences. So here, if you look at it and you think, oh man, I made it too big or too small, like let's say I wanted to bring this one out further, I could totally just redraw it. I actually think it ended up pretty good, so I'm not going to touch it. But just letting you know, yes, you can redraw it, and it's not going to cause any problem because we made such a light color that it will be easy to cover up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw their cute little hourglass body shapes. It literally, from this point, it rounds up, this top of their head, sort of dips in a little and then back out. So these are shaped a lot like those like babushka dolls, those Russian stacking dolls. So yeah, you see how they do that, even though it's like tilted to the side. And then the front chest is very easy to do. So let's do the back of the birds first. So I'm going to start just above that point. And you can just lightly sketch it out or dot it out if you want. Remember, everything's fixable with this light color. And then I'm going to go out for a nice humpback. There we go. And then the front, literally from the chin point here, you just curve it down. So if your owl looks too skinny, like here I feel like maybe I dipped in a little too much. I'll just kind of correct that here. I mean, it's a whimsical painting, so it doesn't have to be entirely realistic. So I'll just try to get this guy similar, but not exactly the same. Round off the bottom. And there we go. And then just have a look. Are you okay with your partner's side? Hopefully. Everybody's unique, so we're all going to paint unique, definitely. And you know, I designed that first painting, and it probably won't be exactly the same anyways. There are going to be slight differences. So yeah, let's take a look. How did I do? Not bad. I feel like maybe the head on this one is maybe a tiny bit skinny, but I might just be being... maybe I'm just being too picky. There we go. Okay. So yeah, we've got a couple funky looking stacking babushka dolls. Let's wash our brush and set it aside. We're gonna pick up the biggest brush now. And hey, Paul, I have actually a little thing for you to do. He was going to do the video with me, but we have a puppy to take care of, so he's doing that. Will you grab me a Go Box coaster?
Yeah.
So those of you guys on the moon side, you have that little blue Go Box coaster in your kit, and you can trace it or use anything. Like if you have even like an empty cup or something like that. Or you can try to draw a circle. I ended up drawing mine, but it ended up being really close in size to that coaster that we send in the kits. So if you've got one of these, look at that. It's like almost exact. How am I so good at that? So let's take this, and you know, let's take that light minty color, same brush. So those on the left, you're not quite done yet. Those on the right, you can just relax and give this person some encouragement, hopefully. I feel like I don't have quite enough paint on my brush. It just makes a little more. And now my coaster's nice and coated with paint, but that's all right. So there you go, nice circle, yay. Now we wash the brush. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our biggest brush, dip it in the water cup, just loosen up the bristles like we did the other time. Dry it off. Now this is for both sides. We're going to paint in the sky, which I did brush strokes all kinds of different directions. We see the light Bahama blue color mixed in with the dark. So I did that by my brush strokes all kind of go like this, kind of swiping it through there. But let's go ahead and do a loose mix of the color. So by loose mix, it means I'm not going to spin my brush around and mix till I get one solid color. I just am going to blot them together like this. And you'll want to make sure that your color is pretty close to your painting partner's color, so that your skies match up, assuming you're going to hang them together. And I'm going to go around the owl first because I want that part to dry so that when we come in and paint the feathers, everything's sort of dry. So let's do that on both sides. We'll just kind of border it off. You can use the wide side of the brush like I'm doing right now, or you can use the skinny side like I did here. I find I have a little more control using the skinny side and then just building out from there. And when you're painting, I didn't do this so much on this one, the original, but try and wrap your paint around the inside edges. It will look a lot better, especially if you hang them slightly apart on the wall. But yeah, let's go ahead and start swiping that paint everywhere. Those of you guys on this side, go around the moon just like you did with the owl. We'll keep the moon white, and then we're going to add some nice soft yellows to it. So by keeping it white canvas at first, the moon ends up being brighter than if we were to paint a light yellow moon on top of the blue. I've done it both ways, and you can get a bright moon if you have to paint over the blue. It just takes several coats. And it goes through a phase where the moon is slightly greenish. But maybe there are some nights when the moon is slightly greenish. Probably depends on how much wine you've partaken in. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and paint the background in just like I'm doing. Brushes different directions. Every once in a while I might just dip the brush in the dark blue and swish it around. And then if it starts feeling a little too dark, you can pick up some of the Bahama blue and streak it in there. That's how you get that multicolored textural background. You guys are probably gonna beat me to the punch getting these canvases covered because I have to paint for 2. I had fun designing this one. I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to use it because it's kind of whimsical, and I know people love Paul's classical landscapes, so I thought, well, maybe people are going to want to do something more like a classical landscape, but I thought, you know what, we need some fun right now. We've got just such crazy times, so let's just have some fun, whimsical paintings made. And it's cute. It's cute for Valentine's Day. Or any day. You can do this anytime. Date night. You can paint with your spouse, partner, grandchild, roommate, whoever you trust with the brush. In the Vingo studio in Portland, we do a lot of date night paintings. Well, when we were open. Date night paintings, and they're really fun to see because couples will do completely different sides sometimes, and then other times they're really close. But I really like it when the sides are different because you kind of see the person's personality come through. This is where my arm starts feeling it. No matter how many years and how many days a week I paint, this like tension that you get in your forearm and sometimes even up to the shoulder, depending on what you're doing, I don't think it ever goes away. You'd think that you would build muscle memory and all that, but nope. So if you do what I just did and you end up with a really bright spot and you think, oh man, I messed it up and ruined, no, you can just come in and put some dark paint right over the top and just blend it out. These sort of brush strokes remind me of like Van Gogh paintings. Like he had almost a chaotic type of brush stroke that he would do, but it was like controlled chaos. Because if you looked really close, there was major texture. Some of his paintings were 1/2 inch thick from the canvas, but you can do that with oil paint. This kind of paint, you have to mix a special medium with it, like a I can't remember what it's called. Man, I just used it not all that long ago.
Gel medium.
Yeah, it's like a gel medium. You can build it up. But oil paints is, I mean, that's a whole different thing. I love oil painting. That's how I learned, actually. Acrylic, it took me a little bit to get a hang of it because it dries so much faster. But yeah, Van Gogh's paintings were almost like sculptures. So yeah, like controlled chaos. If you looked, the brush strokes were kind of all over the place. A lot of different movement going on. But then he had that paint that's almost carved. Okay, let's see. I guess those look pretty good. I'll just take a quick peek and see if there's any spots where I have white dots of canvas. And just glob on a little paint there if that's the case. So we are going to be posting another date night painting, which you can buy a kit for, and the kit includes a stencil because the painting has a couple elk on it, and they're a little hard to draw without a stencil if you haven't done a lot of drawing. So keep that in mind. You can buy that anytime. It's called Elk Sunrise. It was a Zoom class we were going to do on Friday, but due to the weather, it got canceled, so we decided we're going to add it to YouTube. And we'll probably film that in the next few days. If you really enjoy painting with your person. Or yourself. A lot of people do these double canvas paintings themselves, just like I am. Just takes a little extra time. Okay, you guys are probably done. I'm gonna wash my brush now. And we're gonna let that part dry, especially around the owls, for a few minutes while we lightly sketch in the face. Scary. No, don't be scared. We can do it. So let's pick up that number 8 brush that we were using in the beginning. And you know, when I drew this on, I went right for dark brown, but I'm not gonna make you guys do that. We're gonna go with the light blue again. So let's pick up that number 8 brush, and if you need more of that pale blue, mix some up. And let's talk about owl faces. We'll have a quick look. They have the cutest faces. They are the cutest owls I have ever seen. They're definitely my all-time favorite. Anyone who follows my videos, you'll see, or my Instagram, my personal Instagram, you'll see I have tons of owl paintings of barn owls. So they have these round eyes, but in this particular picture, their eyes were kind of slitted, which I thought was cute because it's like they're, I don't know, if they had big wide staring eyes and their noses touching, I think that would look really weird. so we're gonna do these fun little slitted eyes, and then they have this dark brown that goes from the inner corner of their eye, slightly under the eye, and down to the beak. So we're gonna sketch in the eye, we're gonna sketch this in, and then we're gonna lightly sketch in the beak. And just know that everything can be redone and covered up because we're using such a light color. I know it feels weird to use the blue, but it works really good. I've done it lots of different paintings I've taught, especially for kids because they have to redraw a lot of things that they're doing. A lot of times the kids will draw something a little bit too small. So, or really huge. But most of the time too small. I'd have to go around the room and be like, oh, look at all the canvas you got to use. Let's make it bigger. Okay. So where's the eye placed? Let's just go with kind of this little upper area where this kind of bumps out right about there. Just make a dot. A dot is nice and non-committal, and it won't blow your anxiety through the roof. Okay, and now let's go ahead and set this brush down. Don't wash it off. We're going to use it in like a hot second. So let's pick up our smallest brush. Go ahead and dip it in the water. Dry it off. Dry that metal part off. And I'm already out of paint. I never mix enough. Okay. Let's turn this eye into like, it's like a leaf shape or an almond shape. Kind of pointed upwards. It's okay if it doesn't. And it can be more open. Like on mine, I noticed this one's a little more open. The other one's a little more like closed up. Okay. Let's pick up, keep this brush handy, keep the paint on it. Let's pick up our flat number 8 brush, and we're gonna go down. We wanna meet these up close anyway. And then this is just gonna kind of go straight across. So it looks like one whole owl face. That's one of the things I thought was really cool about that particular photograph. And we'll make the eyes a little bit bigger when we paint them in with black, because right now they're really small. They don't have huge eyes anyways. They're not like some of those other owls that have those humongous staring eyes. And let's go ahead and do a little curved beak. So it's just like a crescent moon shape. So this side is going to curve this way. This side we're going to curve away. And I don't have their beaks completely touching. Looks like a snaggletooth. Yeah, that'll need some help on that side. I'm a right-handed person, so painting like on the left is really feels out of place for me. Okay, the non-committal face. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much because we're gonna do some fixing. Oh, you know, I just realized I forgot to paint this part. You guys might have too, or you might have been smart enough to realize that that needed to be done. Or you probably thought I was giving you some special, unique instruction where we do that later. But yes, this part's important. It should match the rest of your night sky because that's exactly what it is. And we do try to fit, yeah, I do fit one star in there. Wrap that around the center here. It's okay if you accidentally cut into your owl just a little bit. That happens. Not a tragedy. We can deal with that at the time that we add the feathers and whatnot. So on our videos, a lot of people ask about easels. And we are adding easels to our website. I just had to research which ones I wanted to add, and they're actually the ones that we use for our travel classes where we go out to like Skamania Lodge and breweries and stuff. But I always paint flat because with the camera, it works really good for the zoom in. Some people like painting on easels, but with this size of canvas, you can absolutely paint with it flat on the table. So washing the brush off. And let's dry it off. Okay, if you need to change your water at any point, you can pause the video, even though it's a live stream. Well, if you're watching right now, but later, those of you watching later tonight, yeah, pause the video and change your water. I usually don't change my water. I haven't really run into any problems with this particular painting using the water that has blue in it. But what I want to do real quick is I want to paint the base color of the face in. So even though the face is white, we actually paint it in with a very pale kind of taupey brown color. And that's because with that being the underlayer, when we paint these white feathers on, you can see, I'm pointing them out right now, you can see those little spots that are like the light brown kind of latte color through there. So that gives the face a lot more depth. If we were to just paint white right on the white, you wouldn't really see any texture or depth. So let's take our biggest brush and use a little bit of brown to white. Just gradually add until you get a color that is kind of like a latte colored. You don't want to go too dark, but more than anything, you don't want to go too light. So you want a color that's definitely different than white. And I'm just going to brush that in. It doesn't really matter what your brush strokes look like. And I just am kind of loosely going around the eye You want to keep those lines visible so that you know what to do later or where to go later. So both sides we're going to do this. I didn't make enough paint. You'd think after painting for 25 years I'd have a good handle on how much paint something's going to use. No, apparently not. If you need to use a smaller brush to get around any of these weird areas, like these little areas around the beak, feel free to do that. I tend to just use the corner of this larger brush, but I'm also very familiar with using paintbrushes. So if this is your first time painting or you haven't done a lot of painting, you might feel better using a little bit smaller brush. So I'll catch this one up too. Our little beige faced owls. I think I made the mixture a little lighter. So everyone I sold the kit to is in Oregon. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this weird little ice break. Ice and snow. Some of you got snow, some of you got ice, some got a mix of both, and that's what we got. It is a little bit crazy out there. Our backyard's full of bamboo, and it was all leaned over. I had to go out and beat it with a stick yesterday to knock some of the ice off because I was afraid it was going to break. Like, we have big timber bamboo that's probably 25 feet tall, and some of it was leaning towards the house, so I just literally pulled it down and beat it with a stick, which I gotta tell you, that was really nice. I had some aggression to get out over this pandemic. So it felt really good. And the bamboo is hardy, so it can take that abuse. What it can't take is breaking and falling apart because of the ice. Okay, so there we've got our funky looking faces. So their chests are white, and then you see their wing come in with the dark brown. I want to sketch that out right now and paint in the chest, even though this might be a little bit wet, so just be careful around there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and go down and then out. So it's like you're doing this weird little snaky curve here. And this can be fixed up and reshaped. So right now they look like penguins. And we'll leave the chin line there so we know where it's supposed to go later. But go ahead and fill in the chest, because it's same thing. It's going to be like the face, where we have the white, soft wispy white on top with the darker tone underneath. So we do a class in the studio called Paint Your Pet. And we have a lot of people who, what we do with that, let me explain what we do first. People sign up for the class and they're prompted to email a pet photo. And we use a digital projector hooked up to our cell phone and project it onto canvas and trace it out. So you come in, you're like, oh, there's my dog, cat, snake, whatever you got. And a lot of people have white dogs. Poodles and cockapoos, all kinds of white dogs with curly fur. And so this is what I have people do. And they always look at me like I'm crazy, but I say, you're going to want to paint a light beige layer first. And then when it's all done, and you paint the pure white textured hair on top, it looks so good. Otherwise, you end up with cotton ball. Cotton ball with eyes. So mine here is already dry. It might be just this building is dry, the weather's dry, whatever, but it's dry. And so if needed, you can go into the background a little bit. It's funny, as I say that, I picked up a little bit of wet blue that was hiding there that they couldn't see. But that's okay. We'll just call it shadow. I even add blue on top of here for their feathers. I love doing that when you can add a extra special non-natural color here and there to animals. Like I have a Kodiak bear I do that's got literally purple, green, turquoise, orange, yellow, all kinds of different colors making up the fur, and it's really cool. It was really popular in the studio. Okay, So yeah, if you feel like your the belly of your owl is a little bit too skinny and you want to make it a little bigger, let this dry. Make sure it's completely dry. You can hair dry it. I do that a lot of times. And then you can paint out into the background just a little bit. It might take a couple coats because you might see through it just a little. But keep in mind we're going to be adding some pure white on here. So we actually do add another layer anyways. Okay. Let's wash that brush and pick up a little bit smaller. Let's pick up our number 8 flat again. We're going to use that one quite a bit because we use it for the stars later on too. Number 8 flats in the water. Dry that off. You see I had a little blue water on there, no big deal. We're going to go right for the raw umber, so your dark brown. And here's what I want you to do. Just dot out this heart shape. So if you look at a barn owl, which I recommend whenever you're painting an animal or drawing, look up lots of pictures. But they have these feathers that surround their face, that the feathers are short and they kind of point outward, and the tips of them are this darkish brown. So that's what we're doing, and that's why I'm having you sort of tap your brush down. And I'm going to match it up on the other side. Just going right over the top of that blue outline. So we want to completely cover that. Oh, and if you guys want to share your final results, we absolutely love that. So there is a page on Facebook that's not our business page, it's a group page, so it's one you have to request to join, and it's called Go Box Art Crate. And we have a lot of members there that post what they've done. They've taken like a painting that we do on canvas and painted it on wood or rocks or something different, or they've done our exact painting. And we love it when people share their work, and a lot of people comment on it, and it's really fun. So feel free to join that group and post your masterpieces. Okay, let's go ahead now, and we're gonna get some of these reddish feathers in. So lighter color up in here, and then they really have a lot of dark, deep, streaky, dark feathers down there. So let's see, brush-wise, I think this biggest one is probably gonna be a good one to use. And how are we gonna mix this color? Let's see, let's do a little bit of this reddish brown to your beigey color. So if you need to remake that color, it was white and brown. You could even add a little more brown in there. I like to do that actually. So we want a real earthy color, but it's not as dark as these are straight out of the bottle. I can tell I didn't make enough paint. But let's go ahead and go around the back of the owl's heads. So either side. And this is where I can kind of reshape any mistakes I've made. I'm not going to get real close to this fresh brown paint yet. Get right up to it, but not touch it yet. And I'm going to go down here and see how I'm sort of flicking, using the skinny edge of my brush and flicking into this beigey color here. We do add a lot of colors to this a little bit later on. So this is just a base layer. So if you can see through it and see the blue outline through it, no big deal. We are going to add. And then we add highlights to it. All the good stuff. Now you can bring this down a little bit, like I like to do this, so it sort of resembles a feathery look. And same with this side. Looks like they have funny hair. And now I can probably get pretty close now to touch the, yeah, just dab it on. See what I'm doing? Using the skinny edge of the brush and just kind of dabbing it right up next to that brown outline. It's okay if they smear a little. We may touch up that outline anyways. Maybe, if needed. Okay. Look at these long-haired hippies. That's what it looks like. They've got these long, scrappy hair. Let's go ahead now and get these wings painted on. So we're going to use this same brush. You don't even need to wash it. Let's dip it right in this deep red, the burnt sienna, and start brushing downward. See how I'm using the skinny edge of the brush? So I'm getting this sort of feathery points. And then I'm going to grab a little dark brown and get that in there too. So we're just mixing the colors right on the canvas. And we want it pretty streaky because that helps to suggest feathers and texture. And we'll add some black in there in a while too. So I'm just flipping back and forth between the brown and the reddish brown. And this is where you would reshape the back of your owl if needed. One done, now I'll go to the other. And they don't have to be exactly alike, remember. Maybe one of your owls has darker feathers. Maybe one has lighter. Maybe one has more red-brown. And you can use pretty thick paint through here. Okay, well that's still wet. And I'm not even going to wash my brush. This one has like really neatly tucked in feathers, and this one's bigger wing. I'm going to dip my brush in, actually let me fix this part real quick. Hold that thought. I'm going to dip my brush in the black paint without washing it because it's all going to mix on here anyways, and you can create some really deep dark feathers. Just don't overpaint it here because we want it to be streaky like that. And if you keep moving your brush too much, it's going to mix into one color. And if that happens, just let it dry and then add some of the other colors back on there. So everything is fixable with an acrylic painting. I have, in the 10 years of teaching through Vinego, I have had probably every single possible crazy thing happen that can happen. I've had holes in canvas. I've had painting outside, the wind blew my canvas right on top of my wet paint palette. I had to fix that in front of like 20 corporate people. So yeah, I've gone through everything. Everything can be fixed, I promise. Okay, washing the brush. And what am I going to do next? Let's work on that face just a little bit. So I want us to use, what brush do we want to use? You know, number 8 has been getting a lot of action. Let's use number 4. So a little number 4 round, or flat, sorry. And let's take and mix, thinking here. Let's mix brown and red together. Because looking at Barnell's, this line that goes from their inner corner of their eye down is kind of that reddish brown color. Not quite this color and not quite that color, somewhere in between. And I'm just going to go down that line and go meet the partner's canvas here. Dabbing it on. You can go under the eye a little bit too. This is just some unique feather pattern that they have, and I'm sure there's a reason for it if I were to really research owls. But yeah, it's just, it looks like those black tears that some dogs get. My dog got them when she got old. She was a Shiba Inu. And I would post some pictures of her on the Shiba Inu subreddit, and people were like, you need to wash her eyes. And I'm like, okay, first off, she's 15, and it's traumatic for her to have her face touched, so she can just rock her goth eyes forever. And she did. So yeah, there we go. Funny little inner corner of the eye thing going on. Let's take our, wash that brush off. Let's pick up our smallest little round brush, and that's what we will use to draw the eyes on. So dip the very tip of the bristles in black. You don't have to pick up a ton. And outline your eyes, and go make sure you're covering the blue outline. Otherwise, you're gonna have blue eyeliner, which maybe you want. You can have that if you want. And I'm just really carefully sketching it out. Boy, that looks kind of evil right now. Fill it in, and the eyes will look sort of, keep getting stuff on my canvas down there. The eyes will look sort of almost like dead and evil for a little bit until we add highlights to them. So they're just not going to be, it's going to be sinister for a while. How about that? They're going to be sinister owls for just a little bit. Okay, so this eye ended up being a little larger than intended. But that's okay because they are two different owls. And I think it would be tempting to just make them exactly the same, but they do need to be different. Oh, let's wash the brush. And let's just use the plain old dark brown, just a little bit on the tip of the bristle. So you can see I have very little. And I'm going to just sketch out the beak, covering your blue lines. The blue lines should be on the inside of this because we're going to paint a lighter color on the inside. This is the one I have trouble with. Okay. Now looks like some kind of creature that was hanging out and drinking water from the toxic source or something. Fangs. Crazy. Okay. I think right now if we just let all this dry, I'm going to touch this up really quick. Just use a little brown and white. That's where my arm kind of dragged through. Okay. So let's go ahead and check this out. Make sure this is nice and dry. You can run your hand over it, and yes, it is nice and dry. The blue on my fingers is from earlier. And let's go ahead and start painting stars and moon. So those of you who have the moon, let me pull that over here. This is really important. We're going to go outside of the outlines because you can see the outlines when you paint around them. It's not very pretty. It's like not a perfect circle. It's got some funky edges, and we want to make a softer moonlight. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a very pale buttery shade. And those of you painting stars on this side, you're going to want to make that color too, because the stars are going to be that exact same shade. So I will get you started first on stars so that this person can work on stars, and this you over here, you can work on stars after you paint the moon in. I guess it doesn't matter what order, but let's make that buttery shade so it's white with a little yellow. Probably, if I were to give you a recipe, I'd say 2 parts white and 1 part yellow. Thereabouts. Kind of a lemon yogurt color. There we go. I'm using my biggest brush. Oh, I was going to show you stars first. Let me just keep myself on task here. Again, number 8 brush. That's what we're going to use for stars. Keep this big brush handy if you're doing the moon, because that's what you're going to need. And for the stars, I paint a little circle. This is probably about the diameter of like a nickel. It can be a little larger or smaller. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to paint several of those all over. And they don't have to be the same size. You can paint them different sizes. Let me show you my original. Let's have a look at the stars. So you can see I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. I decided to do this one right above their heads, which I wasn't 100% sure about, but I guess it works. And then I tucked one over here. But yeah, you can do them different sizes. I've got a smaller ones mixed in with the larger ones. We do add some warmer yellow to them later. But go ahead and start with those circles and paint them all over wherever you want. I'm going to go a little bit fast here with mine just so I can get you guys going on the moon. So if you're over here, you can start on the stars too. And here I am making all mine the same size. So I'm going to purposely make a little tiny one. And over here too. If you need to use the smallest brush, I'm using the corner of this sometimes to draw these little small ones. You can do a half star here and there. Pick up the smallest brush if needed. And if you want to do that little half star thing, I'm going to use the smallest brush for that. This is like their love star. Here we go. Their guiding light. It's like their mistletoe. Okay, it looks like I can fit one here. I could put one here too, I suppose. Why not? So right now it looks like we're just painting a bunch of polka dots. Oh, I've got a really wet blue right there, so I'm going to avoid that. Put a star up here. These do not have to be perfect circles by any means. Mine definitely are not on the original at all. Don't get too close to the moon. This is probably about as close as I'm going to get. If you already went too close, it's not a big deal. It's just we put these dashes around the moon, and the star can occasionally be slightly in the way, but it's not a big deal if you already put some there. So that's probably about all I'm going to do. I'll get you guys going on painting the little light rings around the stars. Now there's a couple ways you can do them. I'm just going to set my paint-filled big brush down for a second. So you can use your littlest brush, and you literally just go around and do dashes. I'll do like maybe 3 rows. So it's just creating a glow around the stars. This little brush works good for it, or you can use the skinny edge of this number 8 brush. So what you do is try both and see which one gets you better brush strokes. Obviously for me, probably was a little bit better with that little brush. And yeah, so proceed with that. Get some nice glowing dashes around here. Try not to over perfect them. They're pretty sloppy and messy. Let me show you how sloppy and messy they are. You can see. Look at that. It's not perfect in any way. It's just supposed to be a sort of Van Gogh-esque glow around the stars. So this is the part I was thinking about, Van Gogh's Starry Night, which I have taught so many times in the studio. It was the very first painting I ever taught 10 years ago when we opened. Oh, don't forget these little half stars if you did them. I had another really cute animal date night that I did for several years. And some of you may have even done it before if you painted in the studio with us. It was called a Foxy Date Night. It was 2 foxes, and that was really cute. It was in the dark, night scene, and had a fox on either side with a tree in the middle, and the tree was carved with everybody painted like it's carved with their initials. And I remember at our Tigard location, I had 44 people to teach that to. It was really fun. I just remember like music choices being like, I don't know what kind of music. I had a hard time reading the crowd because there were all kinds of different people there, and I just had a really hard time figuring out. I just cycled through a bunch of different music. Okay. So keep working on that if you're on this side, and maybe even your partner will let you help over here if needed. But I'm gonna go ahead and just start painting this circle moon in. Go ahead and just get the interior first. I need to make a little more paint. So use the skinny edge of the brush around the edges. And it can haze out into that blue just a bit. That's going to soften the edge. So now what I'm going to do, sorry if it feels like I'm going too fast. You can always pause me if needed. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the wide side of the brush, and I'm going to bring it out into the background just a little bit. So see that? It just makes it look like the moon has a glow around it as I'm just letting my brush run out of paint. And if you've still got some areas where like you can see the blue outline through there, just give it some more paint. Maybe after it dries it can get a little more. When acrylic paint is wet, it doesn't like to take a second coat right away. So you want it to dry for a few minutes till it becomes kind of sticky, tacky. Then a second coat of paint will stick to it. And you can use the skinny edge of your brush too to go around the edges, because we are going to create these little dashy things around the moon too. So this is just kind of getting that part started anyways. Okay. That moon color, or the moon and star color, that really pale yellow, we use that for the beaks. So might as well, while we have it mixed, paint those in. One of your smaller brushes, either your smallest or your number 4 flat, is perfect for that. And just leave your brown outlines. If you need to redo them later, that's not a biggie. Like if you accidentally get a little more yellow paint over them than you wanted. The cool thing is if these outlines ended up too thick, you can kind of thin them out with this light color by just painting slightly over the edge of the outline. And if you have the moon side, you can do those fun dashes anytime. This little brush feels like it's a little bit too small, so I'm going to use my number 8 flat, and I can see at some point the handle rolled in my light color, so clean that off so I don't get it all over my hands. And go back to this color, the moon buttery yellow. And I'm literally, let's show you the picture. So that's what I'm doing, like an inch wide of dashes. An inch wide is what I use. It doesn't have to be that much, or it can be wider. And I'm using the thin edge of this number 8 flat brush. And just going around haphazard style, Van Gogh style. Maybe his kind of all over the place brush strokes were because he really hit the absinthe hard. And it was like the true absinthe, the hallucinogenic absinthe that has like the true wormwood in it. So yeah. There were also rumors he ate paint or chewed on his paintbrush while he was working. And the oil paints back then were lead-based. So, you know, that's just not good at all. So yeah, I bumped into a star and it ended up being totally fine. It's working good. We're going to use this same brush, this number 8 flat, and I'm going to get some darker feathery brush strokes on the head part. So not so much up in here, but down in here I'll put some on there. And let's use just a plain reddish brown, so that burnt sienna color. Skinny edge of the brush. If it's too much the same color and not really showing up a lot, mix a little of the dark brown with it, kind of like that same color we used right here. So dark brown and burnt sienna, and then it should show up a little better. And you can bring that up as far as you want. You could go up onto the head. If this feels like it's all one color and you need to add some texture to it or depth, you can definitely add some little dashes up in there. Actually, I think that looks good. I think that was a good decision. So both owl heads are going to get that little spa treatment here. Look like we're painting highlights or lowlights in the hair. Pretty soon we'll be able to get the white paint on the face and all of that good stuff. The chest. Now, if you feel like you want to get some more dark, this color up higher, we can do that. We can mix a little black with that color we were just using and bring some up in here. It's not going to hurt anything. The more of these little feathery detail brush strokes you do, the better your owl's going to look. You can even do that dark color around the back of the owl that will kind of act like an outline and make that owl pop out from the background a little better if needed. So yeah, right now what I'm using is the 2 browns with a little black mixed in. There we go. Okay, washing the brush now. We're going to go back to the sky for just a minute. We're going to finish the sky up. So I have these big, bright, glowing stars, and then in addition to that, I do this all the time, little white dots everywhere, because I feel like that just looks so much more finished. See the difference? Yeah. And I do those with the handle end of one of your small brushes. So let's check them out. Yeah, either your number 4 or your number 2 brush, the handle side. I think number 4 would be good, because if I remember right, the 2 was a little bit too small. And literally, you're just going to poke it in your white paint like that and dot little stars all over. Make sure you do some little clusters of stars and then move along, because it's really normal to make a pattern, and a pattern doesn't look quite as natural for stars. Like if you are the type that place all of your stars in equal distance apart. I definitely do that. I think humans by nature, we do that. So I will purposely make myself cluster them together and then move along and cluster them together, or come in and make one right next to another. So both sides, obviously, we want to do this. Oh, and let's not forget that little area between the stomachs here. Yeah, I did remember that on the original. I seem to forget about this little spot. It's important. Now, one thing that's really important, when you're done with this, make sure you wipe off the handle of your brush, because it will dry on there, and then the next time, which I hope you paint some more, because you guys get to keep those brushes, if it dries on there, it can create problem the next time you do our little star technique. Okay, so yeah, I've got a lot of cute little stars, and now it's time to make these guys look better. There's one thing I was noticing as I was doing those stars. I've got a little spot I want to touch up right here. I'm going to scoot this away, where I've got a little bit of white canvas up here, and then I noticed it, I think right here, yeah. Okay. How's the moon doing? Moon is still pretty wet. One of the things I like to do with the moon and the stars is add some warmer yellow, because right now they're really light color, and it's optional, but look, have a look. You can see that this has a lot more warmer yellow on it, and then some of the stars do too. That's, like I said, completely optional. If you like this soft, lighter thing you've got going on, then leave it. But this is still pretty wet, so I'm gonna wait on that. And let's go ahead and let's work on the chest of the owl right now, and then we'll work on the face. Let's see. For the chest, let's use our biggest brush. Make sure you clean it off really good. If you need to change your water, you can do that now. But I just make sure that I clean it, wash it really good, and then I literally kind of fold the towel over it and pull the brush out, and it squeezes off any excess water. So you really shouldn't have too much of an issue, even though the water is like a slate color. So pure white. Oops, I'm running out. I need to give myself a little more. We don't have a ton left to do on this painting. I kept it pretty simple. There we go. Okay. So pure white, I want to use the thin edge of this brush, and I'm going to brush down from this chin area. Go right up in here. Look what I'm doing. I'm kind of overlapping into that part where this red-brown kind of starts coming in here. Make sure you're leaving some little bits of that taupe color showing through, but now you can see it definitely has more of a feather texture. And it looks better than the coffee color that we had going on there. If you need to bump the belly out just a little bit, now is the time to do that. Maybe your owl has a dad bod. Paul's back there, like me. No, you don't anymore. You lost weight. All Paul had to do was like slightly change something. Oh, I just drank one less soda a day. It's like, boom, 15 pounds gone. Isn't that how it goes? Okay. You can put as much of this feathery texture on here as you like. You can pick up one of the smaller brushes, like say number 8, and create some little shorter feathery brush strokes that kind of flick out into the background. So there's a little shaggy shaggy feathers going on here. Actually, it shouldn't be the dad bod, Paul. It should be like the pandemic bod. I was telling Paul on the way over here, one of our people we know out here, I said, I think I saw her. I think she's lost a bunch of weight. And I think with the pandemic, people have gone kind of one way or the other. They've either used it as the opportunity to get fit, or they've just kind of, you know, use it. Food is comfort. We needed some comfort. Man, I'm not going to blame anyone who put on any pandemic pounds. We needed to just feel good. I have no idea if I did because I refused to step on a scale. Yep, I'm one of those. I don't think I did though because my clothes fit the same. Okay, so I'm going to also create the nice feathery texture in the background. Doing this it's a great place to do it because you've got that dark background, so this kind of silhouetted against that. Or just, I don't know if silhouette is the right word, it's just right up against it. You can create some nice feathers that pop out into the background. Looks like I tried to avoid this star, and in doing so, we ended up with a little dip in the belly. Okay, now we need to match up the face, most definitely, because that face is so plain and needs some work. We don't want to use the big brush for that. It's a little bit too big. I'm going to wash that off and set it aside. I am going to use the brush that has been our best friend throughout this whole painting, the number 8 flat. And I'll talk real quick about how their feathers, the direction of their feathers on their faces. So on their noses, if you were to look down the top of an barn owl's head, their feathers come together like this. So they're actually going to go towards each other. And then above the eye, it just starts, you just go around like this. And I'm sure it has to do with making their faces more aerodynamic for flight. And probably quieter too, because field mice probably have really good hearing. So let's take white, and again, let's use the skinny edge of this brush just like we were down here. And let's start in an easy part. Let's start right up here above the eye. So it's like you're making long white eyelashes, and flick the edge of these over that dark outline that we did around the face. But you don't want to completely cover that up. But you can see how that looks now compared to that. And now I'm starting to angle my brush strokes down. Think aerodynamics. Now you can do a mix of short and long brush strokes, or you can do one whole brush stroke. I have a tendency to do, like, I'll do little short ones through here, and then I'll come in and do longer ones to reach the edge. You can use nice thick paint here too. Just make sure you're leaving a little bit of the taupe color showing through so you do have that depth. And if you're not getting really good results with the spiky feathers around here, you can use your smallest little round brush and go through and just create those at the ends. And you can determine if your owl has longer feathers on the face to make it look real soft and petable, or if you keep them short, it doesn't matter. But let's do this right here. So above the eye, kind of getting close to the inner corner of the eye, this is where I'm going to start pointing the feathers towards the other owl. And then right here, they're going to go pretty much straight across. And then they start angling down. Yes, I've looked at lots of pictures of owl faces. Oops. Feather in the eye. Sorry, dude. I've done watercolors of barn owls, acrylic paintings, drawings. So yeah, I have a whole pin board on Pinterest dedicated to them. Maybe it's an obsession. I've seen some in real life. One that was at Sun River in Oregon. There's the Nature Center, and they have some birds of prey and whatnot that are injured, so they're just in captivity now. And yeah, they have a barn owl there, or they used to. And then my uncle, when I was growing up, had property out in the country and an old barn that had been on the property before they even bought it. And us kids, being stupid kids, would go in and play in this barn that was probably like one gust of wind would take it down. And yeah, there was a barn owl in there. It was a little surprise. Not a super welcome surprise at the time when I was like 8 years old. They look terrifying in the night. They're kind of like a ghost is flying towards you. And yes, they do always love to fly right towards you. Now, if you're the inner corner thing with the dark color that comes down, if that feels too thick and too much, you can take your brush and come in and kind of reduce it by adding some feathery brush strokes around it. You can also use your littlest brush if that feels a little more comfortable. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, either way. Either way. There. I like that fuzziness. And if you want to do that down here, obviously the wing's going to overlap this feathery belly, but right through here you can absolutely create some of that fuzziness by using this little brush and kind of flicking upward like these little white feathers and the brown feathers meet right there. I'm going to touch up this one eye. I don't know if you can even see it on the camera, but I got a little white feather in the eye right here, which I can see. There we go. Now, if the beak is kind of greenish bluish, because you, with this as the coat of paint dried, you can see through it, give it another coat real quick of that light yellow. I have a little bit left on here. And then I'm going to let this dry while we work on the stars. Then we're going to come back and do some finish details on the owls, and then we'll be completely done. So I was telling you earlier about adding some warm yellow to the stars and moon. Let's do the moon first. So you want to use your biggest brush. This is, again, optional. Dip it in the just plain unmixed yellow paint, and I literally just brush some half circle brush strokes in here, and I kept some of that light color through it so that, let me lift it up here, you can see it kind of gives that impression of craters on the moon. So you know when you look at the moon you see the dark spots and the light spots. That's all I'm going to do to that. That was really easy. And now I'm going to take the number 8 brush again, clean that baby off. I think we were just using white with it, so not a biggie. And just the pure yellow, you can add little bits of that kind of like we did on the moon, to your stars. Or if you like really light stars, you can add white to the center. So let's see what that would look like. So here I added the warm yellow. If you like really white, bright stars, you could add like a pure white dot. So maybe try both because you can cover them up. It's not a big deal. You can have both on the same painting. As we know, stars are different. Sometimes they kind of slightly different colors. That was quick and painless. Easy peasy. Okay, let's have a look at what we have left to do. Oh look, these almost line up. You're not my partner. You are. Okay, so what I want to have us do now is we're going to get these freckles on the owl. They're just little feathers they have. Female barn owls have the feathery dots, dark dots that come down on their chest and under their neck. The males have just on their head. So whatever partner you're painting with, you can do whatever you want there. And then we'll get some of this turquoise going and a bit of yellow highlights on the owls. And then some highlights in the eyes and beak, and then we'll be done. So let's do the freckles first. Now remember earlier on the stars I was having you use the handle brush to do the handle of the brush to do the dots. On these, looking at barn owls and the way they look, they're imperfect. So some of them are some of the little dots are kind of linear and some are more of a circle. So I used the brush end of this little brush and I just used black. So it looks like someone just took a pepper shaker and sprinkled pepper all over. So yeah, sometimes because you're using the brush end, sometimes you're going to get a dot and sometimes you're going to get a little bit more of a slightly linear dot. There's the puppy. She's awake. These can be a dark gray too, so if you feel like it's feeling a little too harsh for you and it's making you uncomfortable, you could mix white and black and make a dark gray. And it might even, because we might have some white wet paint on the chest feathers here, you might get a dark gray without even planning it, because it'll mix just a bit. So I'm going to bring on the female owl here, I'm going to bring some of these dots down under the chin and then down along the feather here. I mean the wing. Okay. Now the male just gets the dots on the head. If you want to see something really freaky, look up barn owl babies, little owlets. They look like they've just flown in from another planet. They are so strange looking. It's weird to look at that and realize, wow, they turn out so cute. But I think that's the same thing with a lot of creatures in the world. So we want these to dry before we put highlights. So I'm gonna stop right now and let them dry, and we'll get some highlights on the beak and the eyes, and then we'll get our turquoise blue going on here, and then we'll do the highlights from the stars, which this stuff should be dry by that point. In theory, Crossing my fingers here. Okay, let's talk about the eye highlights. So our light source is the moon. You can see how different they look with the eye highlights in. This one, she kind of looks like she's doing like a little side eye thing. A little sneaky. It's because of this dot here. It makes it look like her eyeball is looking backwards. That's funny. And then he's just got this little swoop, little curve of white and a little dot here. I figured with the moonlight coming in, it's going to hit right about there. And then for her, the moonlight's probably going to hit more of the front of the eye. Keep in mind, whatever highlight you do, if it looks funny and you don't like it, let it dry for a few minutes and then paint black over it and do it again. So we want to use our littlest brush for this. Just poke it in, pick up a tiny bit of white on the tip of the bristle. So you can see I have just a small amount. And I'll just go ahead and do a little curve here. Yep, there's that side eye. And then you can do a little dot or some kind of highlight back there. You could even bring that down like that. And then for this guy, a little curve right inside the eye. And I'll do just a little dot here. And then the beaks, she's going to have the highlight on the front of her beak here. It might not show it very much because the color of the beaks is so light. And we can give him one highlight maybe towards the back of the beak because think about the moonlight coming through. I hope I called it the moon earlier. I might have called it the sun. I've been known to do that in a video. I really know the difference. Okay. So then touch up anything on the face with the white feathery stuff if you feel like you need to. And I'm going to wash the brush. Let's see how they look apart. Yeah, you can hang them apart with a slight, if you like that look better, or if you like them like that, either way. I've seen this is called a diptych, when there's two canvases together, and I've seen lots of them where they're hung touching each other and then others where they're slightly apart. Especially if you have them framed, you would have to probably frame each individual one and they'd be slightly apart anyway, but also together. Okay, number 8 flat brush. Again, this one here, turquoise paint. This will probably feel kind of weird, but it looks really cool. I just brush some, using the skinny edge of the brush, I'm just going to brush some long, feathery brush strokes. Not completely covering up the brown, but it's just in addition to it. I'll show you the original. I think I went pretty bold on that for both. It's hitting some to see both of those. Yeah, pretty bold. Probably used a little bit bigger brush. And we'll get this one over here. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is get some of the light golden highlights from, see, the moon would definitely cast a nice big bright light on the back of the head, back of the wings of this one. And then on the right side one, I mainly have her lit up with the front forehead from the light from the moon and then areas where the stars are. That way she gets some yellow too. Same brush, I just cleaned it off. And let's mix the yellow and white together. So again, recipe-wise, it's about 2 parts white, 1 part yellow, but it can be slightly altered from that. It can be more yellow if you want. Because it'll get a nice warm bit of color back here. Let's start back here. It's a real easy big area. So I'm just gonna brush using the skinny edge of the brush. And here's a star. So maybe that's going to light up a little area. And I already had the star right here, so that worked perfect. And then the back of the head. Hopefully your little dots are nice and dry. If not, pause the video, get a hairdryer going. And then she's gonna get a little on the top of the head here. You can bring his highlight over too. And let's see, yeah. Wherever the stars are, you can get some highlights going. Technically, I could even highlight in here from this star. In here, but that's going extra credit. Okay, there we are. Now's the time I just take a look and see if there's any spot that I might have missed that needed to be fixed up. I see right here, earlier I had that issue too. I apparently didn't get it all, but it's just a little bit of white canvas left. And if you feel like your owls don't pop out from the blue background enough, you can mix brown, the burnt sienna, and black to get a dark color and kind of go along the edges of them. If you like more of an outlined look, it's not going to hurt anything. But that is it. You want to sign your painting, so one you sign here, one you sign here, usually. Unless you're like me and did it yourself. And then, you know, I'm going to make a different color to sign it with. I love the Bahama blue mixed with the yellow. It makes the coolest seafoam green. You can add a little white to it to even make it a little bit more seafoam. And I'm going to sign my painting in that color. And there we go. Yep, definitely different, a little bit different than my original. You can tell they're painted by the same person. But I think I was probably a little rougher handed with this one. A little neater with this one, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom myself out here. I'm going to staring at the screen. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful Valentine's Day, or whenever you do this video. You can do it anytime. It'll be up here on our YouTube page forever, as long as we have a YouTube page. And you can check out the rest of our videos. We sell kits for every single video that we put up there. So the kits would have all the paint. And you guys who ordered the kit for this one, you already have the brushes now, so you can do any of those paint kits without having to add brushes onto your order. And we do free shipping over $50. So a date night painting is usually around $50. So there you go. You got your free shipping. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Valentine's here in Oregon. Hopefully we'll be able to drive around pretty soon without the treacherous ice everywhere. And yeah, I guess we'll talk to you guys later. If you would want to see more videos and get notifications for them, you can click like on the video, which is great for us, and then click the little subscribe and bell button, and it will give you notifications for any new content we post. So at any rate, we will see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in and painting with me. See you later. Bye. Whoop, going back.